From Caterpillar to Butterfly, episode 38, How to Think for Yourself.
Welcome to the From Caterpillars to Butterflies Personal Growth Podcast. Just like the caterpillar is destined to become a butterfly, you too are designed for a beautiful transformation. This is where you go to grow and transform your life. And now, here's your host, Certified Life Coach, Charlene Dior.
Hey, this is Charlene, your host of the From Caterpillars to Butterflies Personal Growth Podcast, where we talk about all things personal growth. If it can help you grow, we will likely be covering it right here on the show. And today I wanted to talk about your thoughts, your opinions, your beliefs, and who shapes those for you. So there's a lot that's been going on in our country and in social media the last month and a half or so that has just left me baffled. Like, really, is this really what we want to focus on? And it just has me thinking, like, who shapes the thoughts collectively of me and you and everybody? And are we positioning ourselves to think for ourselves, or are we susceptible to how other people frame things? And this is just my straight up opinion about all these things that are going on, and I realize that you will probably have very different opinions because this is what has been going on the internet, and obviously there's some strong opinions about it on multiple fronts, and I think it's just crazy. So I'm just going to say that off the bat. So the first thing is, Hurricane Harvey came hurling through Houston at the end of August, and in the aftermath of that, people were coming down on one particular pastor of one particular church in Houston, and it was their opportunity to kind of bash him and to say their opinions about him and all kinds of crazy things. And what was most surprising to me is there were pastors of other churches that were like calling him out on Twitter. There was a pastor that wrote this open letter to him. And I'm like, I don't recall the Bible saying if you have a problem with your brother, you call him out on Twitter or you write an open letter. The open letter that was written was a pretty long letter. And as a blogger myself, I could probably say that the author took some hours to write that blog post. So, okay, hurricane has ripped through Houston and other coastal cities in Texas. People have lost their lives. They've lost their belongings. They don't know where they're going to live. Okay, they have water in their house and they don't even know how they're going to rebuild. They don't even know the first step. They're anxious, they're confused, they're cold. People were rescued and they were wet and they didn't even have clean underwear to put on. You understand? And babies needed food and diapers and water and all these kind of things. And this pastor sat down at his desk, at his computer for several hours to write an open letter to another pastor of all the things he could have done with his time. He could have wrote an open letter to the victims. He could have inspired them. He could have prayed over them. He could have helped point them in the direction of resources. He could have sat down and wrote some open checks for some people. Okay, he could have just signed his name. You fill in the number you need. There's a lot of things that he could have done, but in the heat of all of the commotion and all of the opinions and all of the internet memes and drama, what he thought to do was to sit down and write this open letter condemning another pastor. And I'm sure that he's a great guy. I don't know who he is. I don't even know his name, but I'm sure that, he's a pastor. I guess he's a good guy. I'm sure under different circumstances, maybe he would have thought more about the victims or he would have done something more productive with his time. But I think that the internet and people, they shape how we think and feel about things. And sometimes we just jump in and we get in the heat of the emotion of things, even when we know better. And so that's why I just wanted to talk about this, is that you've got to know how and when to think for yourself. And you have to be able to identify when you're acting against your true character or your best interest or your best intentions, because the same way that he was judging this other pastor, he himself looks like a bit of a hypocrite, and he looked like he was focusing on the wrong thing. And I think that my personal opinion is that a part of why that happened is because there was so much noise, and he was listening to the noise, and he was letting that feed him. And the same thing, with this football thing. Like, listen, I never listened to the National Anthem. I never listened to the Pledge of Allegiance until I am at a sporting event or a graduation. I don't wake up in the morning and stand salute to a flag in my house. There is no flag in my house. I am not bumping to the National Anthem when I'm in my car driving. I never listen to it. And so if those things are the hallmark of American pride, I would gather to say that most Americans, just are not patriotic then, I saw this meme where it was like people were at the concession stands getting beer and nachos during the National Anthem, right? And so again, it's one of these things where my personal opinion is that people are telling you how to think. They're telling you what you should think about this thing, because if you go back and look at your own actions and your own behaviors, you don't quite line up or measure up either. And so you're jumping on a bandwagon of something that isn't even a part of your own daily life or your own regular life. Most people will not listen to the National Anthem or say the Pledge of Allegiance if someone else doesn't put it on some itinerary for them, on some program for them. But now there's this big hoopla about what people are and aren't doing when you didn't even care about the whole song or the pledge, a year ago. But because now it's all blasted on the news, everybody has to have an opinion, and they have strong opinions. They have strong opinions on both sides. But I'm like, why? Who told you to think that? Because what it really boils down to, and even the next situation I'm going to talk about, it's all, more than anything, it's judging people's intentions. It's not even really what happened. It's that you're deciding that you know why it happened. And so, it's the judgment of people's intentions. It's not even the act of what's happening. It's what you've decided to make it mean. So the latest debacle is Dove. So there's this Dove commercial that I guess they're pulling from the air with women taking off a shirt, and first it's a black woman, then it's a white woman, then it's, I think, an Asian or Hispanic woman taking off a shirt. And so people have decided that it was racist. And some people have said that, well, we only saw one screenshot. So people were like really fanning the flames when they haven't seen the whole commercial. They had only saw one screenshot where the black woman turns into the white woman. And that's really, really the point of what I'm trying to say here, is that somebody shaped a lot of people's opinions by showing them one clip. Whether it was intentional or not, somebody initiated this whole thing, shaping people's opinions by only showing them one part of the ad. And it's the same thing, like with the pastor, the first person who had a big enough following, who made a statement about it, was able to shape how everyone else was going to think about it. The first thing that I saw about the pastor was that he canceled church services and told his members to pray for other people. But the truth is that every church in this city canceled their services that weekend because a hurricane was coming through the town. And he didn't tell his members to pray for others. He said that he was going to replay an older message in absence of live service titled Pray for Others. But the first person who got hold of the message and shaped it how they wanted to shape it, shaped everyone else's opinion about it. And so whoever took one screenshot of the Dove ad was able to influence how a lot of other people thought and what they said and what this company ultimately did. And whether you think the ad was racially insensitive or not, I think we can all agree that the ad didn't have racial discriminatory intentions. I would bet that there was probably an African American that was on that marketing team. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising, right? Like it's just the judgment of the intention, but they also Other people are telling you what to think and how to think about things all day long. And often wonder, especially when these sorts of things happen, I'm like, what are we so hungry for as a nation that we're feeding off of this? Why are you so hungry that you're worried about who's standing or sitting during a national anthem? Why are you so hungry that you're feeding off of a pastor when, thousands of people have been displaced from their homes and millions of dollars worth of damage has been done? Why are you feeding off of that? Why are you feeding off of this dove thing right now when there's so many other things that you can feed off of? I don't want to feed off of drama. I want to feed off of things that are inspiring. I want to feed on things that are positive. I want to feed on things that are going to push me towards my goal, which is actually why I like my pastor. I don't know if I said that earlier, but I'm biased because I go to that church. But, I like to feed off of things that are empowering and encouraging and meaningful and positive. And I'm just like, why are we so hungry that we're feeding off of all these things that don't do anything but divide, don't do anything but nitpick off of silly things? Like, why can't you just mind your business about some of these things? What are we hungry for? Like, man, I want to feed off of things that feed my soul. And I don't think drama feeds my soul. I talked about that in an earlier episode on drama. Like, it's such a distraction from more meaningful, positive things. And I want to feed on things that I can use to feed other people. And I don't want to feed other people crap. I don't want to feed other people jealousy. I don't want to feed other people control. Like, I get to control what other people do and don't do and when they do and don't do it. Like, am I that egotistical? I don't want to feed other people judging people's intentions and where they stand and who they are. I want to feed on super positive things. I saw this quote on Abraham Hicks' page earlier today. It said, "We would like you to reach the place where you're not willing to listen to people criticize other people, where you take no satisfaction from someone being wrong, where it matters to you so much that you feel good, that you are only willing to think positive things about people. You are only willing to look for positive aspects. You are only willing to look for solutions, and you are not willing to beat the drum of all the problems of the world." And I thought, man, that's so timely. And I know that this podcast sounds like I am criticizing people and wanting them to be wrong. And it really isn't where I'm coming from. And I'm coming from the place of, we all get to decide what we're going to feed our soul and feed our thoughts and feed our minds. And I'm just surprised that we are choosing collectively as a nation to focus on all these things that are just pointless. And that, in my opinion, a lot of people are telling you what you're supposed to think about them. And, you're putting a dog in the fight where you don't even know what the dogs are fighting, but you threw your dog in the fight because somebody told you to. And it's just like, just from a place of encouragement and love, that let's focus on things that are more positive and more uplifting. And not only that, but you got to be able to think for yourself, because that's how you live your life. That's how you feed your soul. That's how you accomplish your goals. Like, you have to be able to think for yourself. And I honestly think that the world and social media is just really shaping how people think, and they probably don't even realize it. I saw someone wrote this that I thought was so powerful. She or he, I can't remember, said when they're exposed to something new, they ask themselves, what did I think before I saw that? Or what were my beliefs before I saw that or I heard that, right? And I thought that was so powerful, because it's really kind of a gut check. What did I really think about the national anthem before this whole football thing came up? And if you never really cared about it, then why do you care about it now? And if you never really thought that Dove was a racist company, like, people are like, I gotta throw out all my Dove. I gotta, go switch to Olay now. And it's like, did you believe that they were racist before this moment? Like, gut check yourself to make sure that you're not being swayed, that people aren't telling you what to think for yourself. I am so convinced that most people don't have any idea what to think until someone tells them. And so when things like this happen and they take the internet by storm, people are like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be thinking, or that they don't have any passion or anything positive to feed on, or anything really in their lives to move them. So when they see something they can get behind that can give them some passion, then they pick a side, not because they care, but because they needed the passion or the camaraderie or the something. This is my personal opinion, I just think people don't know how to think for themselves. And so I want to tell you that I'm a really great author and podcaster, and I just launched this really great book, and From Caterpillar to Butterfly, Transform the Life You Have into the Life You Love. It's an awesome book. Go get it right now. It will literally change your life. You are getting very sleepy. Okay, in all seriousness, you've got to learn how to think for yourself, because if you don't, people will plant their opinions or their agenda in your own thoughts. So be willing to think for yourself. And one great way to do that is to check back in with yourself. What did I really think about this XYZ thing before this hoopla? Or before someone told me their opinion, or before I heard this or saw this ad? What were my feelings before that? Socrates is quoted as saying, to find yourself, think for yourself. Albert Einstein said, few are those who see with their own eyes and feel with their own hearts. Malcolm X said, learn to see, listen, and think for yourself. Coco Chanel said the most courageous act is still to think for yourself aloud. Christopher Hitchens said, take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way. And I can go on, but it's just really important that you're able to think for yourself, and that, you're choosing to feed off of things that are meaningful to you. And maybe these things are meaningful to you. Maybe I'm just the crazy person, but it's just so important that you're able to think for yourself, because from your thoughts determine your actions, and your actions determine your life, your future. So if you let other people think for you, then you're basically letting other people, create your future for you. And it's like, why would you do that? That's dumb, right? So just being able to think for yourself, just to check in with yourself. Like, how do I really think about this? How did I think about this before I heard such and such's opinion about it? And do my actions really line up with what I say I believe? You might even want to journal about your thoughts and opinions, meditate on your thoughts or your opinions, and just always be questioning what you're hearing, who it's coming from, if they have an agenda, how you really think about it. And don't be so quick to form an opinion. Take time to think and say nothing before you put your opinion out there. Because I think sometimes what happens is that people never want to backtrack. So you jump on somebody's bandwagon, and then as new information becomes available, you don't really want to backtrack. So you just double down and keep going. So even just being able to pause before even deciding how you feel about something can help you to actually think and feel about that thing for yourself. Again, because how you think determines how you act, and how you act determines what you create. So you should want to think absolutely for yourself. And listen, and I tell people all the time, in my book I said this, right? Don't take what Charlene says for gospel. I'm giving you something here that's really how I think. And I've mellowed over it for a while now. The hurricane happened at the end of August. So I'm not even saying that you should adopt my opinions, but I think that you should adopt what I'm saying about thinking for yourself. And so these are just some examples from my own perspective, from what my own observations, where I see, in my opinion, people's opinions and thoughts being shaped by pop culture, by social media. And so I just wanted to draw attention to that. But by all means, think for yourself. If you really think that it's disrespectful to sit or kneel during the Pledge of Allegiance, if that's really, your belief, I'm not saying to change your belief. I'm just saying to question if you really believe what you believe, or are you just kind of being influenced by what's on social media at this time. So main message here again is just being able to think for yourself, because that's how you make your life meaningful to you. And that's how you follow your own purpose and you feed your own soul. Another announcement is that my book, From Caterpillar to Butterfly, that I mentioned earlier, it is free on Amazon for 5 days. So you want to grab that book. If you want the Kindle, is free. Paperback is not free, but Kindle is free for 5 days. So download that book. So starting today, when this episode airs, Tuesday, October the 10th, all the way into the 14th, you can download the Kindle version of the book on Amazon for free. That is all I have for you today. Until next time, think for yourself and grow on purpose.
Thanks for listening to the From Caterpillars to Butterflies podcast, your one-stop shop for all things personal growth. For today's show notes and even more tools and resources to help you transform the life you have into the life you love, go to www.fromcaterpillarstobutterflies.com.